Hi, this is Mitchell Hudson again, and I'm going to talk about jQuery one more time and JavaScript. And I'm going to start with the example file that was created in the last tutorial video. Here it is right here. And here what we did is we imported jQuery, and then we set up the document ready function, and then we used some simple jQuery methods like the CSS method and the jQuery selector to apply some styles to this h1 tag in the body. So what I'd like to do is follow up on this and create some more involved examples, okay? So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to do a save as and create a copy of this document. And you can see I'm saving this new file into the same folder with my jQuery JS file, okay? So since these are in the same folder, this line here that says script type JavaScript source is, my jQuery JS file. It will find that file in the same folder, okay? So the first thing that you might want to do when you're creating a file is you might actually have more things than just one tag. You might have some other stuff. I'll say this is a paragraph. We'll just leave it at that. So now I have a paragraph and I have an H1. What if I wanted to apply font family Arial to the paragraph? Well, remember you can use any CSS selector within the jQuery selector. So I can use P, okay? So if I was to test this, you can see my document loads and I get the color on the H1 and Arial for the text of the paragraph. You can see this is the color here for the H1. There's Arial applied to paragraph. A lot of times, you'll want to do more involved stuff. Let's do a few more things. Okay. I'm going to create a div tag, and remember the div is sort of a divider or container for other tags. So I'll put my paragraph inside the div, and then I'll make another paragraph inside this div. I'll say this is the second paragraph. Okay? And then maybe we'll make a third paragraph too, and another paragraph. And then maybe our document has another paragraph at the bottom here with an ID name of footer. This is the footer is what we'll say. Okay, so now using this method here, all the paragraphs would get the Arial as their font face. So remember this string that we include within the jQuery selector is can be any. It's interpreted as any CSS selector. So anything that you could have used in your style sheet will apply here, any selector. So in our case, if I want to target all of the paragraphs here and not hit this paragraph outside of the div, I could do several things. I could say div space paragraph or div child paragraph, and that would get all of my child paragraphs here on div. I'll do this last one. So now testing my page, you can see the last paragraph is times, and the three paragraphs in the middle are Arial. Okay? Let's try another one. Class names and IDs can also be used here, and you would use them in the same way. This is an ID name down here for footer, so I'll do footer.css, and maybe here we'll do font size, comma, 24 pixels. Test it. Oh yeah, my bottom paragraph there, the footer is 24 pixels, and these are Arial. Okay, let's try another one. We've got this CSS method down, I think, at this point. This is pretty good. If we've done a few examples with this, I'm sure you can, expand on that and, apply any style and use any selector to select something on a page. Let's add a new jQuery method, okay? Another jQuery method is called EQ. And the EQ method allows you to select an element on the page by its position. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say div child paragraph dot EQ. Okay, now the difference here is that some of the jQuery methods like CSS apply a style where they modify something, where the EQ selector doesn't modify an element on the page, but instead modifies the jQuery selection. Okay, so jQuery has a bunch of different methods. Some of them, modify an element on the page or the properties of an element. Some of them modify the selection that's applied to jQuery. So here in this case, when I do div child p, this is going to create a selection that includes all three of these paragraphs. The EQ method is going to modify that selection. EQ takes a number, so if I put a 0 in here, this says only select the first element out of the current selection here. Okay, now jQuery methods can be chained together. So, and this looks a little bit funny, but once you get used to it, it's actually kind of convenient. And what that means is that right here after EQ, I can apply another jQuery method. So I can say, $divs child p, EQ 0, that means modify the selection, select the first element. EQ selects the elements by number. The first one is 0, 1, and 2. And then, now that the selection has been modified, any method that I chain onto the end with a dot will apply to that selection, or that new selection. So in this case, I've selected all three paragraphs. I've modified my selection to only target the first paragraph, and now I will apply a style to just the first paragraph. Let's make it red. I'll set the color to red. Okay, let's test it. Hey, the first paragraph is red. And if we check this out just to prove that it works this way, number 1 would be our second paragraph. Second paragraph now is red. Third paragraph would be number 2. Okay, so there we go. So the EQ method modifies a selection. Okay, very interesting. Now let's take this one step further. Okay, the EQ method, it selects one particular item out of a list. So this generates a list, and then this selects one particular item by its index, and the index is the position. So 0, 1, and 2 is the index. jQuery provides some other methods for modifying your selection. Let's try one of those. One of those is called siblings. Okay, siblings. And the siblings method applies to all of the other elements that are at the same level as the currently selected element. So in other words, here, if I create a selection that selects, let's switch this back to number 0. So if I create a selection here that selects all of the paragraphs inside this div, and then I modify that selection to only point to the first paragraph, and then I can apply a color to it. At this point right here, our selection is still just the first paragraph. Using siblings, I can say, give me all of the other paragraphs, or all the other child elements that are at the same level. So since I don't have any other tags in here except for these other two P's, the current selection is the first one. Siblings would be the other two. Okay? So let's try that. I'll say siblings, and then I'll do .css, and I'll make these guys all color blue. Okay. Now this is making this line a little bit long here. jQuery allows you to put the dot and the method name on the next line. So I'm actually going to do that in this case here. Let's save that. Okay, so let's test again, right? So here I have, selection is all the paragraphs within the div, all the child paragraphs. Modify that selection to point to only the first paragraph. Apply a color to it with a CSS style. Select all the sibling objects, which are the other two paragraphs, paragraphs 1 and 2, right? 0 is the first one. And then apply a CSS color to the other two paragraphs. Red for the first paragraph, blue for the other two. Okay, and there we go. Got the blue paragraphs and the red one. Now, siblings will apply to everything. Imagine that right below here, I had some other tag, like a, let's imagine just for example, I have this footer tag in here, and what I don't want to do is, let's actually wait. Let me redo that. Let's do it this way. Let's make a new tag. Let's make a tag here. We'll make it an H4 or something, right? Let's say hello. I'm an H4. Okay. So let's say I have this H4 tag here. Now, div P is going to get all the paragraphs here, and then apply a color to the first. Modify that to select just the first one. Apply a color. Siblings now gets all the other tags, including the H4, because it is also a sibling of the first paragraph. If we want to use siblings, we can also include a filter option here, which is any CSS selector, just like you would have done here. And this filter will apply to the siblings selection. So when we select siblings, we're saying filter them so they're only type P. Okay? So we'll test that. Oh yeah, look, our paragraph there is not, or the H4 is not red or not blue. If I leave this out, then this one also gets blue. Okay, so anyway, there's a couple new ideas with jQuery, and hopefully those will be useful to you. I think that these are very useful ideas, and we'll do some more in the future.